welcome everyone. So I want to just let you know that we don't talk about this every week. So if you were like, wow, I don't know why I'm here. I just wanted to let you guys know, welcome. It's okay if it's weird. But know that we talk about all sorts of topics, and so the idea is that this would just be a comfortable place where we talk about everything, and so that does include this topic tonight. And so earlier in the fall, we asked you guys to write down questions and to share what you wanted to know about, and this was one of the topics that came up. And so tonight, we're going to be hearing from Brad. If you haven't met Brad, you're about to. But Brad is going to share a teaching with you guys that I'm looking forward to, and you'll be hearing a bit from me as well. So right now, I'd just like to pray, and we'll get started. God, I thank you so much just for today. Lord, I thank you that we had a beautiful day, that the sun was out, and that we can all be here tonight, Lord, just enjoying time with one another, and just enjoying the fun that we can have in a community like this. And so I just pray for this night, and I pray that right now as we talk about just what your plan is, Lord, I pray that you would help us all and just some of the questions that we may have and the things that we may be curious about, God. I pray that something tonight, whether it's something that Brad says or something that I say or something from small group time, Lord, I pray that there would be something meaningful for each of us just coming out of this night, Lord. So I thank you, Jesus, just for how much you love us. I thank you that you could never love us less, Lord. I thank you that your love is infinite and perfect. And I just pray that tonight we would learn and grow closer to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you guys would welcome Brad.
Unless you can cut your children out of it. So tonight we are tackling the fantastic topic of dating and sex. Who's excited? Yes, I figured you would be. I saw it written on your face earlier. Wow, this started out well. This is telling you too much already. But to preface this, like I did on Wednesday night, especially with the sixth graders in the room, this is extremely serious. This is about as stone cold serious as you probably find me. And if you know me at all, I'm probably never serious. So if we can try to subside with the giggles and the snickers to get through this, I would greatly appreciate it. Because quite frankly, that's exactly where I want to go with this, is to the giggles and the snickers. So I'm going to be also fighting myself, because those are way too easy. But when we talk about sex, we don't just go, oh, I'm just going to go have sex tonight. No, it starts out with relationships. Everything starts out with relationships. We start out with friendships, right? We get to know somebody, we like them, we hang out with them. We're in middle school, we're in grade school, we're in high school. We have friendships. Sometimes friendships turn and become something more, sometimes they fall apart. Now, if they become something more, you probably want to start dating that person in the age group that I'm dealing with you guys tonight. How many of you have been in a relationship other than just, this is my friend? How many of you taken it someplace farther? Congratulations. I knew, but I wasn't sure about Stacy, but I knew you had. So we had like two other people who even wanted to fess up, and the rest of you are all just too embarrassed. Okay, so we get into relationships because we kind of like this person, and maybe they kind of are attracted to us. We look at them and we aren't repulsed by them, which is kind of good for relationships because we want to hang out with them. Now, back when I was dating, I finally met this girl who I was really kind of, taken by. She just had a lot of things going for her. And maybe I could get a picture of her here. There she is, way up on the mountaintop. Let's zoom her in here. There we are. That picture's really old, about 30 pounds ago for me, which is really kind of tragic. But this was us. I don't exactly know what the circumstance was that night. I don't remember if we were at a banquet or if we were at somebody else's wedding. But, we had kind of, gotten to know each other. We were both attracted to each other, if you will. Everybody's attracted to somebody. They don't necessarily have to be the supermodel, because how many of those supermodels and and awesome movie stars who are, Brad Pitt looking. They have great relationships. They last forever, right? You can read about those. Those are long-term relationships. Don't you wish? So it's more than that. It goes deeper than that, because physicality only gets you so far. And so we started dating, and we ended up getting married and had children. Now, with our children, they came a little bit of a different way. And if you can bring up the next picture, this picture gets into exactly what kind of children we have. Now, our family is extended and spread out throughout the country now. And this also kind of gets into our sex topic, because we weren't able to have children as it came to be. My wife had some surgeries that made it impossible for her to ever conceive. So we had decisions to make, and we started rolling through them. Eventually got to the point where we adopted Zach. And I'll try to stay that picture. And Zach's on the right here. He's 10. We adopted him when he was 6 months old. Greatest day of our life, right? So he is our son. He looks at us as mom and dad. It's been great. Then you get into kind of the topic we're talking about tonight, which is sex and sex outside of marriage, and what that looks like on the extreme far end, the place where you guys hopefully are not at yet, a place where I thought I would be many moons ago. These children, except for one, were born outside of marriage, and they've come to be part of our families either for the short term or long term. We love them. They're great. I guarantee that their family, who are heavily involved with them, would never want to give them back. But the situation that they got themselves into that brought these kids along, they might want to change, because most of them are from single-parent homes with no hope of that ever really being rectified in the normal sense, where you had your mom and your dad, and they were always around. They had you, and that's just the way life is, right? So they were brought along through sex outside of marriage, which I guarantee every one of the people that bore these children thought was a great idea at the time. They probably enjoyed that night. 9 months later, they probably looked back down and thought, maybe that wasn't as good as what I thought it was. Now, for me, we go back to a time when I had just started to drive and was just in high school and was kind of figuring things out with girls, because girls for me were super easy to talk to, so long as I didn't have to talk to them. And so it was always, it was an awkward thing. I met this girl, and she was in my English class, and we got to know each other. She was dating somebody at the time. And then eventually, I don't remember how I ended up asking her out, but I asked her out. We started dating. What I didn't know at the time was the guy she'd been dating before me, was not only a little older, but also a little bit more advanced in what he looked at dating to be. And so what do we look at dating to be? Is dating just getting to know somebody, or is dating an institute means? And that's kind of where he was. That's where a lot of us in high school were. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, probably misplaced, that your high school is different than mine. That you don't have a lot of that going on, where everybody is just there to get to know somebody else that's around them and have a good relationship and make those connections and not have it be an instant means. But ours wasn't like that. So when I got to dating her, we got to a point one day where we had our first kiss, right? That was a huge time. I'll never forget that. And I'll probably guarantee every adult in here who's ever had a first kiss never has forgotten that moment. Now, that doesn't mean that their relationship with their husband or wife is different. But that was a special moment. You normally don't, the first person you kiss normally isn't the person you marry. However, if that ends up being great. So that's a memory, and it's scorched in your mind. Certain memories you don't get rid of. So that was like first base, if you will, back in the day, or step one, or however you want to look at it. And it progressed from there. Eventually, I got myself into a situation that I didn't have an exit strategy for, if you will. A way of knowing how to get myself out of a situation, and I got lost. And I remember at the time, and it's one of those things that you people, this kind of side, you hear people talk about, I heard God speak to me, and you kind of think that's weird, right? God's never spoken to me, how does that work? I personally had it happen twice, and both of them were really kind of profound. The first time, he wasn't speaking to me. He was screaming for me. And he was reaching for me. I felt it. Because in that moment, I was in a position where I had a choice to make. It was time to either go down path A or down path B. Either I was going to retreat from this situation, or I was going to enjoy this situation. And as I hear him screaming, the urge inside of me led me down the path to enjoy the situation. Now, like I said, I thought many times I would be in this situation. I thought I would be, at this stage, having children that are older than you guys. Having somebody who's in college at this point. Thankfully, that never happened. Because the choices that were made after that just escalated and kept going and going and going. And you always want more. And eventually the relationship did fall apart just because that's all it was based on. It wasn't a relationship for a guy to meet a girl and really get to know her, or a girl to really get to know the guy. That was gone. It was gone a long time ago before we got to the point where where it dissolved. But then after that, that's what my relationship was based on. Find a girl, like the girl, insta me, all right? Because that's what I figured out relationships were. It was all about the sex. And I know that there's a lot of pressure that night for me to go that direction inside of me. Stuff that's just going on just because those chemicals are flowing. And you've got to have some sort of profound base. You've got to make a decision before you ever get into that position that you're going to lead and you want to know how you're going to do it. Now, I know Lynn wanted to share with us as well because she has been in a position that she didn't want to be in, and she wanted to share her story.
I just like to talk.
That's my job.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to share a little bit because, I feel like, no offense, Brad, but it's been a little bit less time since I was in your shoes, since I was in high school. And so I just wanted to share that, when I was in high school and in middle school growing up, I made a decision and I thought, I understand that the Bible shows me, God says, save sex for marriage, that's not something to be doing in dating. And I heard that message and I thought, I can do that, I agree to that. And I didn't think a ton about it. I just thought, I realized that's not what God has for me, so I won't do that. But unfortunately, by the time I started dating when I was in high school, maybe you've seen it happen this way in your own life, but you can become a little bit desensitized sometimes when you're around something enough. When you see something happen enough, you start to think, well, maybe it's not that bad, and you can start to kind of justify things in your mind. And so, like Brad said, sometimes you find yourself doing things that you thought you wouldn't, sort of thing. For me, I did have a decision that I was not going to have sex until I was married. And ultimately, I ended up changing my mind. I didn't stick to it. I didn't follow what I had decided because I wasn't committed enough. I didn't really understand how great God's plan was, and I didn't understand the value of why it is that God says that He has that and made that for marriage. And I think that it's hard because I was a church kid. I mean, I was here in youth group, and my leaders, they all loved me. No one would have thought that that's what I was doing, but I was. I wasn't following. I was following here in one way, but then I was doing my own thing somewhere else. And so I bring it up, and I want to share that just because nobody's making assumptions about where you're at with this, about what you think, what's important to you, if you're on board with this, or if you're questioning it. Those are all things that we want to be able to talk about. And I think that the biggest thing for me is just that I think that sometimes I hear messages and I think, a preacher can make it sound, or a Christian can make it sound like, man, if you've done this, like, that stinks, like, you just missed out, like, that